All right. So it's been a couple weeks since we've last talked, and I was hoping that I would have some new stuff for you, and I do. So I was hoping that I would have some FFCRA information for you, but I checked as early as this morning, and DOL had not updated anything around FFCRA. But I do have some other good stuff. Um, the first one is that Pennsylvania has updated their business restrictions. As you've heard me say before, we have been working in Pennsylvania since last fall under an impossibility standard, which was you were supposed to be teleworking or your employees were supposed to be teleworking unless it was impossible for them to do so. Governor Wolf has downgraded that slightly. Telework is still strongly encouraged, but we're not under an impossibility standard. But even if you are in person, keep in mind that your face coverings are still required. Your in-person business occupancy is up to 75%, but you still have to be able to engage in social distancing. And someone just asked in the chat, are daily temperature checks still required? Yes, temperature checks are still required. I still recommend you do all your screenings. At least until we know that a good portion of the population has been vaccinated, which leads me to my next topic. So you've probably heard, and Kevin made reference to this before, that Pennsylvania is going to be opening up vaccinations to all individuals as of April 19th. Similarly, President Biden has announced that that's what he would like all the states to do. So I think you're going to see that in pretty short order with the other states in our tri-state area. So what do we do with that? How do we encourage vaccination in our workforce? Well, I found a good Glassdoor survey, and we'll send this around with the email that goes out afterwards. 70% of employees who were surveyed believe that employees should be required to get the vaccine to return to the office. Isn't that interesting, right? We as employers have been hemming and hawing about whether we should require our employees to get vaccinated to come back to the office. Most employers have fallen on the side that says, no, we won't require it. But yet 70% of the people, at least in this survey, said, yeah, everybody should be getting that vaccine. And then again, of those people who were surveyed, slightly over 3 and 4, 76% said, yeah, when I can get that vaccine, I'm going to get it. But of course, that means 24% say they're not going to get it. And I was going back and forth with a member in the last week or two who has employees in a very red state. And they were saying how much there's so much more significant vaccine hesitancy in that place, in that workplace, than in other places. You know, some of this has to do with where you are geographically in the country. Are you urban? Are you rural? Et cetera, et cetera. So you need to know where the pockets of potential vaccine hesitancy are. But interestingly, 68% of employees who are vaccine hesitant say, I'd be more likely to get that vaccine if you give me a little incentive to do so. Okay, so around that, and we've been getting a lot of questions. I've talked to a lot of members. What are other companies doing? And I can't really say, for sure what the smaller companies are doing. I've talked to a few of our members who are doing, different and interesting things. Paying for time off to go get vaccinated, paying for extra PTO to recover from vaccination, some small vaccination bonuses. But here's what some companies are doing sort of around the country. The larger employers, and I won't go through all of these, but you'll see these and you guys will get copies of the slides when they come through. But we're seeing, bonuses, stipends, extra pay, gift cards in some instances, some paid time off to get vaccinated, et cetera, et cetera. So use this sort of as your guide. Will this be helpful in your workplace? I was talking to a member in the last couple of weeks, and this is a member I love talking to because they have a lot of outside the box discussions. And they said, when we get to 75% vaccination in our workplace, we're going to do some sort of celebration. They don't know what that celebration looks like necessarily right now, but we're going to do some sort of celebration. So I think that all of those things are great ideas. And then just we can take some guidance from what the sports leagues are doing. So if you follow sports at all, you know that the major sports leagues have had real challenges around COVID. Last year, the NBA was in a bubble. But other than that, these sports teams have been going, just pretty much doing their normal thing, traveling, staying in hotels, and they've had some pretty strict requirements around that to make sure that their employees, the players, and the staff members of the various teams are not getting COVID. Because as soon as you get a COVID outbreak on a team, a lot of times that means that team can't play a game. So Major League Baseball released an internal memo, or someone got a hold of the internal memo. And Major League Baseball has said, we're not going to require the vaccination. We're going to strongly encourage it. But they have new protocols for fully vaccinated individuals or teams where 85% of the team members are fully vaccinated. And so again, I won't go through all of these, but you can relax the requirements for employees who've been vaccinated, or when you get to a certain level of vaccination inside your organization. So you still have to follow state guidelines. So masks, if you're in a state where masks are mandated, if you're in a state that still has all of your guidelines around social distancing and around temperature checks, and I still think that screening is a really, really good idea, screening questions. One of the interesting things is I recently we got an email from my son's school. He's in 8th grade. One of the things they were pointing out to us is, and he's been going in person, one of the things they're pointing out to us is there really are no colds this year. Okay, nobody's getting cold. So if you have even some minor congestion, you should really be thinking about that might be COVID. If you have a sore throat, you should be thinking about that might be COVID. So I think that doing the daily screening reminds people, yes, absolutely. Just because I have what seem to be minor symptoms, that could be COVID. I was just talking to a member recently. They had somebody come into the office who said, oh, I've got congestion, I've got a sore throat, but I have allergies and that's what it is. Lo and behold, they ended up getting tested a few days later and it was COVID. So we really need to be conscious about that. So I don't think this is the time to drop your screening questions if you're screening. And then similarly, NBA also has updated their safety guidelines for vaccinated players and teams. So very similar. If you're vaccinated, if your team has a certain level of vaccination, you're going to have certain benefits. So again, this is something, I'm not saying this is what you do as an employer, or this is what you do as a business, but you can look to this for the idea around incentivizing. As long as you're still following state and federal mandates, what can you do to encourage vaccinated employees? It might be money, it might be a bonus, it might be some more paid time off, or it might be that they get extra benefits that some other employees don't get. And then I'm sure you also all saw that the CDC has updated their guidelines on travel for the fully vaccinated. So CDC is now saying if you are fully vaccinated, and reminder, fully vaccinated means you're about 2 weeks either post the J&J vaccine or 2 weeks post your second shot of Moderna or Pfizer. You are safe for yourself to travel. It's a minor risk for the fully vaccinated individual to travel right now. But CDC still recommends that we not travel because this is how we spread the virus. So this is one of the ways we spread the virus. That being said, fully vaccinated people can travel within the US and don't need COVID testing or post-travel self-quarantine as long as they continue to take COVID-19 precautions while traveling. What does that mean? That means masks, that means social distancing, avoiding crowds. And then for international travel, again, fully vaccinated people can travel internationally without getting a test before their travel, unless it's required by your international destination. There are plenty of international destinations that say you're not coming into the country unless we see evidence of a test 3 days prior to coming. Same thing, fully vaccinated people do not need to self-quarantine after returning to the US unless it's required by the state or local jurisdiction where you live or where you're staying. And similarly, the one thing that you do need to do to get on a plane to come into the US, you still do need to get a test. And I know a lot of places for a lot of people who are traveling, your resort a lot of times will coordinate that for you. Now, keep in mind also, if you're going to travel internationally, you have to take a test before getting on a plane. If you test positive, you're going to be stuck in that country probably for 10 to 14 days while you quarantine. All right, Kevin, did we have any more questions come through?
We do. So one of the questions is if you're fully vaccinated and the wearing of masks in the office, and I don't believe PA's changed that yet.
No, we're still on a mask mandate. And I think we need to think about this from a very practical point of view. One of the reasons that the mask mandate is still in place, even for those who are fully vaccinated. So there is that piece that we're still trying to figure out, could the fully vaccinated be carriers? There's also the piece that we don't necessarily know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been vaccinated. And one of the things about the workplace is I've talked to some members who say, I want to give people a badge that say I've been vaccinated, or a button to wear that say I've been vaccinated. And we have to remember that still is private medical information that people may or may not be comfortable talking about. So if we did say the vaccinated can stop wearing their masks, they would identify those folks pretty quickly. So I think we're still wearing masks in the workplace, at least for the next couple of months.
Yeah, well, I think the CDC's loosening rules, but you're right, it hasn't made it into the workplace yet, because they have said if you're with people that are vaccinated together, but everything's evolving pretty quick right now, so that's why it's important to kind of attend weekly to see what's going on. Someone asked if we have any sample vaccination guidelines for a handbook or a policy.
We have some policies that we've been working on. So if you're a member, please reach out to Hotline. We can share some of our drafts with you, and we can help you craft something that works for your workplace.
Question says, if you as an employer are not eligible for FMLA, you don't meet the requirements of the normal, are you still eligible for sick pay under FFCRA for getting your vaccine or having symptoms?
Yes. If you want to, any employer with under 500 employees can extend FFCRA through September and get the tax credit. I would talk to your tax advisor about that. But yes, that's the way it's designed. It doesn't matter if you qualify for FMLA or not.
And it is voluntary. So someone asked the question of how many are following the FFCRA. Do we have any sense of?
I'm getting a sense that it's less than 50% of the members that I'm talking to are following it. Some have just decided that we're going to be generous about PTO, but we're not going to follow FFCRA. So they're giving time off to get vaccinated. They're giving extra time off to recover from vaccines, and they're trying to work with employees. But some employers are intentionally not extending the FFCRA.
I think there's a couple questions about how long the vaccination lasts and who does it cover. But again, I think those are CDC kind of answers that we would refrain from giving advice here on these topics. So,
yeah.
So again, I think it's important to keep your eye on your state restrictions as well as CDC, because it is a fairly dynamic space right now.
Absolutely. And I'm still hoping that when we'll have some more FFCRA guidance come out, but I keep looking every day and I haven't seen it. So as soon as that comes out, we'll let you know if it does.
Okay, well, I think that's it for today. So once again, thank you to our speakers, Diana and Amy. And as I said, next week, we will do an overview of what's going on with the marijuana laws on a state and national level, another high changing area. All right, everybody, thank you very much. And someone asked for a breakout of a couple of the slides. We will send the slide deck as well as the recording, so you'll be able to look at it both ways. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.